Hi there, welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. Today I wanted to talk about a concept that I call the feedback loop. Now, in education circles, I'm sure many of us have heard that term, but what I would like to do today is kind of um, talk about what that means to me, why I'm using it, how I've been using it a lot more recently, especially in music. And then I would like to take that concept of the feedback loop as I talk through it, and then see how we might potentially apply it, hopefully to other areas. But I have been, through COVID and through the online, I've been really focusing on the importance of feedback loops, um, especially quick, succinct ones that are constant and kids allowing them to really get that feedback back and forth. So the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. I'm going to demonstrate what I've been working on, how, like, where I kind of got into this feedback loop concept. So several months ago, because I'm having to teach online, and I teach 6th through 12th grade. So I also have to teach, young kids, or in a weird way, because of last year and kind of being a crapshoot. Um, in essence, beginners. Like, let's just call that. So one of the concepts in brass, as a brass player, is there's high, middle, low. And what that means is there's 3 different notes, all with the same fingering, but one is high, one's in the middle, one's a low. So we have to learn to buzz our lips and get a okay, high, middle, low. And so I created this 3-minute exercise that allows kids to practice that very quickly, constantly on a daily basis, to create a really quick feedback loop. And so I want to go over that first. Now, I'm going to press play, and you should be able to hear this. Hopefully, I turned the volume down. I actually did this video a second ago and then went and listened to it, and the volume was so loud. So hopefully this is much better. But anyway, I'm going to press play, and I'm going to kind of talk over what you hear. Okay? So what you'll notice is all the brass have a high note, a middle note, and a low note. So hopefully in the background you can hear it. And they're supposed to buzz it, okay? And that's putting the mouthpiece over it. And then they do it a second time, and this gives them that quick feedback. Okay, you can kind of watch along. Now, if you're not a musician, again, hopefully I'll tie this into non-musician people. And if you are a musician, just maybe this is a great suggestion for something. So here's a third time buzzing, high, middle, and low. And then I asked them to put it on the mouthpiece, or put it on the instrument, the mouthpiece on the instrument, and play what they just buzzed. So they buzzed it 3 times. Now they play it. You can hopefully hear it. Okay, there's high, middle, and low. And then I asked them to buzz it again, okay, for that extra rep. All right. So they're buzzing it, high, middle, low. And here comes the final time where they'll play it after buzzing. And I'm going to pause it after that point. So high, middle, and then low. All right. So in the span of 1 minute, basically, students have the opportunity to buzz it a total of 4 times and play it twice. Now, early on in the development of any brass player, this is actually a very hard thing to do. But again, if I set them up right and talk about the tongue and talk about all the things, this quick little 1 minute exercise allows them to get that done, right? A feedback loop. And every time they do it, if they do it today and the next day and the next day, they're able to kind of feel and hear their improvement. They've got something to model. They've got a pitch to match. Then they go to the trumpet, and they'll notice if they buzzed it accurately, then it's probably going to be easier on the trumpet or brass or French horn, whatever instrument. So I'm going to let it run a little bit more and then talk. So the next thing is you'll hear the pitches go down, because what happens is when we press a valve down for the brass, it lengthens the instrument, which makes it lower. If you've ever seen a trombone slide, as they move it out, the pitch goes lower because you're lengthening it. Anything longer creates a lower tone. That's why it's a half step lower. So I build that in too. So I'm going to press play, and they're going to buzz what's called second valve or second position on the trombone, right? So there's the middle. Here's the low. Then they're going to put that on their instrument and play it. So that's actually providing them the feedback for more notes. So this also is a cool feedback loop, helps them learn a lot of their positions and their notes and fingerings. So again, if you're a musician and you stumble upon this, this is just a great quick exercise for teaching that. So now they're doing first valve on the trumpet, third position trombone, they're buzzing, and I'm almost done. I think you get the picture, okay? So with that being said, this particular exercise is what got me thinking a little bit about, okay, feedback loop. This is a quick feedback loop. So I've been using that term a lot to try to teach kids that if they want to improve in an area, they need ways of getting a quicker feedback loop. Now, in music, I think it's built in. I think the art of practicing is a feedback loop in itself. And so as musicians, it's kind of built into what we do if we're doing it well. Now, the better we practice, the faster we learn, which is something I've said a lot. And I think that that's kind of the point of this video is I'd like to give examples or just kind of give this idea that if all of our subjects, English, writing, math, science, social studies, sports, whatever, I mean, if they all created often very quick feedback loops, I think we would find students understanding concepts quicker. Now, within this, here's my argument, my thesis, my hypothesis, whatever you want to call it. Routines of any sort, a routine is designed to give feedback. Okay? It just is. So if you do something daily, you're able to gauge your progress. You're able to see, let's just use a running routine, right? You're able to gauge the feedback of improvement. You're able to see, did I run further today? Did I did better with my time, et cetera, et cetera. As a musician, I'm going to use my routine as an example. So I do a routine. I preach routines all the time as a music teacher. So my routine is advanced professional routine, but number one is it allows me the feedback, right? So think about this. If I do something in my routine or a student does something in the routine and it didn't go very well, right there, first of all, that's feedback. Didn't go very well. What's the second thing? It draws attention to that needing to be focused on a little bit more the next day, right? So without coming back to it, you won't have a feedback loop. So routines, the nature of routines, build that into them, okay? So obviously the better your routines, okay, the better feedback. But every day I have the opportunity to work on whatever I struggled with in my music routine. And then as you develop and improve and get to a point where you're a professional horn player like myself, where I've got a very advanced routine, then it's about maintenance. So the feedback I get is I'm maintaining it. My skills are ready. My skills are being maintained. So I hope that makes sense. But underneath all that is this concept of a feedback loop. So how might you use this in other subjects? Now, full disclosure, whatever you want to call it, I'm not pretending to be an expert in any other field than music, okay? But I am claiming that if I was forced to teach something else, this is how I would teach it. I would use the same concepts I use for music to teach any other subject, right? I would create routines within my teaching to allow better writing, better math, whatever. So I think underneath, even though the subject changes, the underlying idea of a feedback loop of routines are universally applicable to all other subjects, at least I believe. So hopefully you will find value in what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm going to use the first feedback loop is I'm just going to talk about reading. Now, in my personal growth journey, I have been reading every day. That's my routine, and it creates a daily feedback loop. So then if I want to improve that feedback loop, I have to figure out, well, how do I mark it? So again, what do you do with the reading? That should be part of the routine, the feedback loop. So as an example, let's say you're reading something and you don't understand some words. Well, I would create a feedback loop where I would train students, whatever they read, to highlight or mark or have some sort of system. When they run into a word they don't know, they need to mark it. And then at the end of their reading, they would then go and maybe look it up in a dictionary. That would be part of the process, that feedback loop. They would get better. They would learn more words. They would probably spell better. I mean, there's so many things that this could improve if they just had a clear routine feedback loop, okay? Math. I think math used to be taught this way. I don't think it's taught this way as much anymore. Again, personal opinion, but I think if we went back to the 50 problems a night and kind of closed that feedback loop, kids would have a sense of better accomplishment. They would build little wins, right? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. I could go down a rabbit hole there. I won't. But feedback loop, right? For writing, I mean, again, if I was teaching, not to say anybody else, we would have a way of writing every day. We'd have a way of editing every day. We'd have, I don't know, it'd be a journal, and then we'd go back. I don't know. We'd do something. We'd create feedback of reflection. Like, all right, is this good writing? How do we improve? All right, tomorrow improve better. But if you're writing every day, and actually, I'll just say this. I've been journaling every day. I have noticed that my journaling has gotten better because at first it was just thoughts and like whatever, or kind of, summarizing the day. And now it's like, well, even if I'm just summarizing the day, I want to write in more complete sentences. I want to use better language. Like I just want it to be better writing. So, and no one's forcing me to do that. All I'm doing is I started writing and then created that feedback loop. And I'm like, I want it to be better. Now, maybe I'm oversimplifying this for sure, but my belief is that all students desire to do well. But the tests, right, are so, in general, are so far in between. And we also don't underneath teach them the guiding like habits and principles, etc., of preparing. So I'm going to use my screen here. So my advice, or the whole theme of this, is to have feedback loop after feedback loop after feedback loop. It's like just a feedback, 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 routine, routine, routine. But tests tend to be this: we study this big unit. Here's the test. Now I know there you probably do lots of other things between that, but really, if you think about it, at least my interpretation is the feedback. The main feedback is the test. But if this much time goes on before they get that feedback, and then kids fail, they're going to feel like a failure. But if there's constant feedback, even if they fail in this small chunk right here, but then they get more feedback and they're able to come back over and over, I believe that's how you build, you build character in kids, you build discipline, you build habits, you build the sense of confidence that kids need, right? So again, the reason I just thought this video is so important today is because underneath everything is this concept of routines and feedback loops. And I think if we can get to thinking that way a little bit more and kind of say, all right, how could we use this in our class? We would find over time, of course, everything's over time. Nothing is a quick fix. This sense that we can solve education by this new fad or whatever, it blows my mind. I get kind of frustrated when I hear about something new that we're going to do, because I'm sorry, everything can be broken down into just simple things like discipline, working hard, following through, okay, studying. I mean, and so if we're focusing on those habits, but again, this concept of feedback loops, I don't think is something that I've heard talked about a lot. But it seems so counterintuitive. I do it every day because I'm a music teacher, because I'm a musician. I build it in. I can apply that to all other subjects. Now, again, I'm not trying to have some self-inflated sense of grandiose whatever. I just know that when I think about if I had to teach something else, I could develop a system for it. And because every system I picture in education is based on these time-tested principles of habits, of routines, of success principles, of organization, of just doing things consistently, putting in the reps, putting in the time it needs. Hands-on learning, try something and then tweak it and reflect and then do it again. Those are feedback loops. So anyway, I hope that you get some value out of this idea of a feedback loop, but I just feel that that could be a fundamental principle, a fundamental idea that could, again, reboot, reimagine, whatever you want to call it, the education system. Or to put it a different way, could put a system, a feedback loop system, back in the education system. So again, to end, the catalyst of this channel is the idea that our system is slightly broken. But I would argue part of it is because we've gotten away from an actual system. We've I don't know. I just know that if you think of anything like, I mean, karate has different belts. No kid is going to go to a black belt magically without the stuff underneath. Foundational skills, right? The military, music, sports. I mean, we all understand that you can't just magically do here. There's effort involved. But it seems to me that we think that there's some magic bullet, magic pill, easy button somewhere that's going to make everything easy, because we have been able as a society to create, things in life that are much easier than they used to be. So we probably do think to ourselves, there's probably an easier way. And I guess I'm just here to say, I don't think there is. Not when it comes to education, okay? Because these things I'm preaching, these things that I see, they're universal to every area, every aspect of life. Feedback loop. So anyway, with that said, I'll end there. I hope that made sense. I hope you find value in this. I really do. I want, well, I mean, I want my own kids to live under a system that's going to support them and actually set them up for success. And It's why I just feel compelled that I want my kids to have a better future than I did. And if I can do any small part of that by offering advice or just offering insight, I'm going to do it because we need it. So with that said, remember, consistent effort over time equals success. Thank you, guys.